Hey there, J3 here, and welcome to the Masterclass, a live how to make your dream career a reality. And we are now on the resume module where you will learn how do you make your resume stand out among all of the people submitting their resumes on job posting. How do you make yours stand out? That is what we will discuss in this training. Now, I'd like to begin this lesson with the main theme of the resume is not about your past, it is about your potential for the future. And a lot of the mistakes I see when people make their resumes or when people submit them is that it's purely about the past. So yes, the resume is about your past work, your past achievements. But the one thing it has to be able to communicate with the person reading it is your potential for the future. And we will go into the nitty-gritty of those. But before that, I want to make sure that you understand the importance of completing and really diving deep into this training, because there are a lot of costs of having a bad resume. So let's discuss those first. Number one, and the most obvious, is that you won't get an interview. But there are other costs to that aside from that one. Second is, you will have either a so-so record with the company, because companies, they keep their files on, past submissions of resume. Or if it's really a bad resume, then they discard it totally. Okay? Now, having good records with companies is sort of advantageous as well, because if they have a job posting, the first place they look is, hey, who are the people that we've talked to? Who are the people that we've liked? And based on that, they're gonna reach out to those people as well. Now, here's the third cost of having a bad resume. You'll have lower confidence to start applying for your jobs. And this just further delays you getting that job or you getting that better job, because you're submitting something that you're not proud of. So by the end of this training, what I want you to have is a resume that, you'll be happy to send out to as many companies as you can. All right? So every employee, they truly need to know how to make a kick-ass resume, because it's sales. It's the ability to sell oneself. The resume is the main tool for that. With that, let's now go into the agenda on how we'll go about making sure your resume stands out. And many people, I'm going to assume you already have your resume. So the focus of this training is improving and building upon what you already have. And so instead of teaching you from scratch, these are the sections of the resume, I'm just gonna propose to you major improvements based on what I've seen is out there, based on what you've submitted to me, and based on what I'm receiving as well. And here are the three main areas of improvements that anyone with an existing resume can make. Improvement number one is in the bullet points. This is the meat of any resume, and your bullet points can be or they can make the reader go, huh. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And improvement number two is some people, they get the format wrong. And then improvement number three is how do you customize your resume. And then sprinkled all throughout this training are some common questions and answers on whether you should include this or that in your resume. With that said, let us begin on improvement number one with the bullet points. All right, so let's go to number one, the first improvement, the bullet points. So the bullet points are basically the bullets that you put under each specific role or company that you've been with, like this one. Now, this is the example that we will use later for improving it line by line. But first, I want to teach you about the 4 steps or the checklist on how do you improve your bullet points. So number one is to make it into an action and results format. Number 2, make it advantageously specific. Number 3, you push it to the highest action word level. And number 4, you remove the implied, duplicate, and filler points. So we'll go deep on each one of those things. We begin with step number 1. Bullet points, as much as possible, they need to have the action and result format. The number one mistake I see people make with their bullet points is that they copy the job description. Okay? But bullet points should be about the achievement, not what you did in the job, but how you did well on the job. Okay? So here's an example. This is a common bullet point that I see. It's just a statement of what they do. Handles customer support requests. That's it. But it needs to be action and result. What made you say that, hey, you're doing a good job? And so here's something a little bit better. Handles customer support requests and resolves them on time. Okay? So for each bullet point that you have, check. Wait, is there a result in here? Is there an action here? If not, let's put those in. So with the action words, here is a list of all of the action words commonly used in a resume. And as you can see, it's already grouped according to the job function or the task. For instance, if you work in communication, then the verbs on your resume should be read as maybe campaigned, communicated, contacted, corresponded, documented, drafted, informed, publicized, etc. Okay? And if you're someone who is, say, in process improvement, then the action words there could be accelerated, boosted, consolidated, eliminated, simplified, and so on and so forth. If you're doing tasks that are in managing or in leading, then you're aligned, aided, authorized, championed, led, initiated, guided, and you can take a pick of those words. You'll see a lot of these action words online when you search for them. And my advice actually is that if you're having trouble putting down the action of what it is you actually did, search online for your job function plus resume action words for verb ideas, for action word ideas. So you can type in Google like programmer resume action words. And you're gonna see some bullet points, the common used bullet points for programmer resumes. Now, here's a caveat though. Some bullet point templates online are bad. And I'm telling you to search online just for the action word ideas. Okay, we just use it for the action word ideas, not for the entire template. Don't copy paste any templates you find online. Some of them are really bad and really generic. Okay, now the next portion is the results. And this is where you are able to stand out because everyone makes the mistake of simply putting in what they did, what the job description was, what the action they did was. But take the time to ask yourself this question. How well did you do this task? And what makes you say that it was good? That should be put on the resume. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples on how we put forward the results. The results could be money, an increase in the money for the company, or reduced waste for the company. You save on time, you save on effort, or it could be based on the key performance indicators that you have for your company, your KPIs. Or you could be outperforming a certain benchmark in your industry or in your team, or you could have maybe received awards or recognition, or it could be done by the fact that you're highlighting the difficulty of the task and you being able to do it. Or it could be something of significance or maybe a testimonial. And here are a few examples of those things. So let's talk money, time, and KPI. Here are some bullet points that highlight, that follow the action plus result format. Here's an example. Led the standardization of procedures into all services, increasing average branch productivity by 17%. Okay, now the original of this was that the bullet point just read, led the standardization of procedures in all branches. That was it. But wait, what's the impact of that? And it could be something like, okay, it increased the productivity by 17%. And that's how you know that, hey, he did a good job. Next, drove year-on-year increase in repeat order sales, averaging a 41% increase over 8 years. Okay, so you could be putting in there responsible for year-on-year increase in repeat order sales. But that's just the action. You're just saying, hey, I'm responsible for this. A better one is, hey, I was responsible for this, and my results are it averaged a 41% increase over 8 years. Okay? Here's another example. Sold 1,060,000 worth of design templates over 200,000 customers in 73 countries. Okay? So these bullet points are kind of easy to put in if you're in sales or if you're in marketing or if you're increasing productivity. Now let's go into the other type of result bullet points, wherein we have benchmark, awards, and difficulty. In our earlier example, I talked about handling customer support tickets. Now we put in details to emphasize, hey, how can you say that you did a good job? So here's an example. Handled 50 to 70 customer support tickets daily and resolved 97% within 4 minutes. Open and close parenthesis, team average is 85%. So here, we're putting in the difficulty. We're saying, hey, I'm handling 50 to 70 tickets daily. That's difficult, but I'm able to do it. And resolved 97% within 4 minutes compared to the team average of 85%. So this is a benchmark. You put in the benchmark and you said, hey, I exceeded this benchmark. And that's the big result. Now, it could be phrased this way as well. If you're consistently rated in your company, if you're giving rankings, then you can put that in. And it's like an award plus benchmark. And it could be written something like this: consistently rated as a 4 out of 5 highest with above average performance in the last 8 years of service. Okay? Now, here's another example. And this one is for, let's say you're an executive assistant, you're the one in charge of the schedule for your boss and so on. So it could read as planned and supervised all personal travel arrangements, including airfare, ground transpo, and accommodations 3 times a week with frequent last-minute changes. Okay. Now the original bullet point of this when I saw it, it was just helps in planning and supervising personal travel arrangements, and that was it. But if you put in the details of the complexity of the job, wherein, hey, it includes air travel, ground transpo, and it's done 3 times a week with frequent last-minute changes, then you're telling to the person, hey, I'm good at my job because I can do this difficult task. Okay? Now, here's another type of result bullet point that you could use. And this is the significance and testimonial type. And this is rarely used, but it's so powerful. So this one is, let's say, for another executive assistant type. So the task reads, supported private family and children during off hours, nights, and weekends. And the original bullet point ended there. But if you have been complimented, then you put in a testimonial, what people said about you. So we can add in a line that goes like this. One of the children said, we always love to say with Auntie Cecil, she makes the best beef with broccoli. And putting in that line, it communicates to the reader that, wow, she's good with kids. Wow, she cooks well. And if I were someone to hire an executive assistant, I'd like someone that my family likes. And that type of testimonial is so much more believable than simply saying, good with kids in your resume. There's no proof to that because you could have just put that. But if you put it in a testimonial format, it makes it real. It makes it tangible that, that's what people say about her. She cooks well, good with kids, good with family. Immediately you stand out. Now, here's another thing. So, a bullet point saying, frequently receives praise from colleagues. I'm so grateful you're our supply partner. You made everything clear and concise amid the chaos. Dash, supervising line manager. So now the person reading your resume knows that, hey, this person gets the job done amid the chaos. He's the best. And it's stated in a testimonial format. Now, one warning here is that you only use this kind of bullet point once. In your entire resume, you use it once because it's so powerful and you do not want to sort of dilute its effect, but it immediately communicates to the person reading that, hey, this is why you stand out. All right? Now, step number 2. So step number 1, we just finished it. Make sure that the format is action and result. Right? Step number 2 is we make it specific. Now, in our earlier example, we only went from handled customer support requests, and then that turned into handled customer support requests and resolved them on time. Now, we put in numbers or concepts or ideas that make it specific and it makes it more believable. So, handled 50 to 70 customer support tickets daily and resolved 96% within 4 minutes. So, that's how we know that you're doing a good job. Okay? Now, the key task here when it comes to the specificity is that you use it to your advantage. If it makes you more impressive, then by all means add it. But if not, then remove or change the angle. For instance, awarded 13 times as Employee of the Month among a pool of 129 candidates. And that's, wow, among 129, you got selected 13 times, you must be really good. But if you've been awarded Employee of the Month 13 times, but you're just a pool of 3 candidates, then don't mention that you were just a pool of 3 candidates. That's it. Just put in awarded 13 times as Employee of the Month. So we use specificity to your advantage. Now, next thing, when you're putting in numbers, as much as possible, do not put in rounded numbers. Why? Because it assumes that you were being inaccurate, you're being vague, you're doing shortcuts. So my suggestion here is to always decrease the number or add a decimal point to make it more believable. For example, these 3 bullet points: increased efficiency by 9.5%, increased efficiency by 10%, increased efficiency by 10.1%. Of these 3 lines, the least believable is the second one because it's a rounded number. But 9.5%, okay, that looks good. There's a point. It means they measured the results. 10.1%, that's very believable because it communicates to the person, okay, this person is very meticulous and actually pays attention to the numbers, and this person is exact. And those are all good things that you would want to subconsciously communicate to the person reading your resume. All right? Now, the third area for improvement in bullet points is to choose the stronger action word. And what I mean by that is, so we have already this bullet point, handled 50 to 70 customer support tickets, and the keyword is handled. But there's a stronger action word for that. Instead of handled, make it resolved. Resolved 50 to 70 customer support tickets daily, 97 of which are solved in 4 minutes. So handled is a weak action word compared to resolved. And when you're looking at the action words in your resume, check if there are things that maybe you can increase the amount of responsibility that you were given. So for example, the bullet point reads as assisted in creating a marketing plan that increased sales by 15.5% during the quarter. Check in if you can actually put in co-developed a marketing plan or developed a marketing plan or developed and executed a marketing plan. Okay? You pick the stronger action word that actually fits your capability and skills. It's very important here that you do not limit yourself to your job description. So for example, you can be a marketing assistant, But it doesn't mean that you only assisted in all of the campaigns. It's exactly possible that your boss assigned to you to come up with a campaign and run it. In that case, even though your job position says you're a marketing assistant, you can put in the bullet point in the resume that you championed, you led, you created and executed a marketing campaign. All right? Now, let's say two of you in the team work together on the campaign. And you understood how the entire campaign ran, and after the campaign, you already know how to run the entire campaign by yourself. Then go ahead and put in there created. No need to put co-developed, co-created, or assisted. You can go for the stronger action word if you believe that, hey, I can do this already. All right? But again, at the same time, you don't exaggerate, because these words, assisted, is very different from created to championed and led. And the last thing you'd want to do is to be, exaggerating yourself in your resume. Okay? So that's step number 3, choosing the stronger action word. Step number 4 is to remove implied, duplicate, and filler points. The main segments of a resume should only have up to a maximum of 5 bullet points. And normally, the best ones, it's just 2 to 3 hard-hitting bullet points. Because the mistake many people make is that, again, they put in all of the bullet points of their existing job description. No, please don't do that. Never do that. The resume is a place for your job achievements. Because when you tell them of your job achievements, it is already implied that, hey, you can do this job. Okay? So, to answer the question, how long should a resume be? Keep in mind that longer is never better. Being concise and having those hard-hitting bullet points that make the reader go, huh, positive notes instead of, if you have lots of bullet points, 2 to 3 bullet points per category that make the person reading say, then you're gonna get that interview. Okay? So here's the guideline. How long should your resume be? Fresh graduates stick to 1 page maximum. And if you have any years of work experience, the maximum is 2 pages. Okay? Less than 5 years, I'd say put it at about 1 page only, and then more than that, you can go for 2. The exceptions are, and these are the only 2 exceptions. Number 1, if you're in a complex or technical field that requires you to list all of your publications or research. So let's say you're in academe, or the job application asks that you write down all of your publications. So go ahead and add that to your resume. The second exception is that if you're submitting a resume online to a job site, and some job sites today, they have a robot that filters the resume. So they look for keywords, they look for specific segments or words in the resume, and the robot already filters it out. So if this is the case, then you may have to make your resume longer because of spelling out abbreviations. So if you have some technical abbreviations, like 3, 4, 5 letters, those need to be spelled out so that you don't miss out if the robot is looking for the abbreviation or the full spelled out, the full term. Okay, and that's the only reason why your resume can get longer. But still, keep it to a minimum because you're just highlighting your achievements. All right? Now, when I say that, I know some people will think here, but I've worked for 20 plus years. I've done so much. I can't fit it in 2 pages. Then here's my advice. Just highlight your achievements per role that you've done and limit it to just 3 to 5 bullet points. Remember, it's just the achievement. It's just the highlights, not the job description. And the further away the job is, so if it's a job that you did, 15 years ago, then that should just be 1 or 2 bullet points, not even a bullet point. It's just the job position and the title. That's it. Because what matters is, hey, what have you been doing these past 5-10 years? Okay? So the goal is not to tell the reader what you can do or have done. It's all about getting them interested in you and making them go, huh, hmm, huh. And that gets you into the yes pile for interviews. So, how long should your resume be? Remember, they are not book reports that you need to fill in so that it looks meatier. Let me tell you this, hiring managers, they're tired of resumes filled with fluff. Yung naglalagay lang ng points para so that you can say something is there, because the more fluff you put, the more meh bullet points you put, the less likely what's great about you will stand out. And that's what we want, you to stand out. So, with those 4 things, let's now evaluate and improve on this sample bullet point. And this came from an actual resume. And to the person who sent this, you know who you are. Thank you very much for sending this in. And what we're now going to do is we're going to evaluate line by line and try to improve it. So I'd like you to give this a read as you're seeing this, everyone. And I want to ask you, what are your first impressions? And what energy or vibe are you getting from the applicant of this person? So he says here, qualified engineer having 9 years experience in power plant industry. He names the different kinds of power plants. And by the way, I know that I specifically chose this one because it's the most technical sounding and it feels like I don't know what those things mean. And that's okay. But try to evaluate, like, what is this person communicating? What are the first impressions? So, control room and field operator in BOP, experience in plant startup, theoretical and practical knowledge of SOVR boiler, train the operator's client and make actual startup and shutdown procedures. Okay, so I think that's enough time for you to just read this and get a feel of what vibe. Now, I'm gonna share with you what what word came to my mind when I was reading this, and that was qualified. So I feel that this person is, he knows what he's doing. He's experienced and okay, he's fit for the job. But one thing that's missing is that he's not standing out. You have to assume that everyone else applying has put in these things. What if I get a qualified engineer having 15 years experience? What if I get a qualified engineer with, who lists down more types of power plants and boiler types? Because that's the only thing going for in this resume. It's his qualified. And will that be enough? In most cases, no. So let's run through what gets on how to improve this. So, first line. This is actually a great line. It says 9 years of experience, and it immediately establishes the expertise and the specificity of the type of plants. Okay? Now, this next line, DCS engineer, which by the way, I don't know what it means and any of these words mean. I'm just letting you guys know the feeling that I'm getting and how I were to improve it if I were working with this person one-on-one. So, DCS engineer, control room engineer in power plant and desalination plant. It feels like fluff. It feels like just a reiteration of the previous bullet point. It doesn't communicate anything new. Okay? So, an improvement that I may suggest is let's combine those 2 bullet points. So, we just write licensed DCS and control room engineer with 9 years experience in ultra, supercritical, subcritical, and multi-effects desalination plant. So, we combine it. We remove the fluff. Next, says here control room and field operator in BOP, boiler, etc., etc. Now, again, this feels like a reiteration of the previous 2 bullet points. So, my question here is the field operator work different from the traditional role of a DCS or control room engineer? If yes, then please focus on the action and the result of being a field operator. Like, what KPIs are you being measured on? How is your success or ranking in the company determined? By what metrics? We put those in. Okay? Now, next, experienced in plant startup, shutdown, in normal and emergency operations. This line feels too vague. Okay? Because qualified and experienced, they're coming along the same line of, okay, I know this. But still, we haven't stood out. It's not communicating anything new in terms of feeling. And so, for improvement, I'd like to find a better action word when it comes to your role in the plant startup or shutdown emergency operations. Like, what's your level of experience? Is it that you operated on it? Did you manage a team on it? Did you lead a team on it? So, what word? For example, maybe it could be written as, again, if it's applicable to this person, I don't know. But maybe a better line could be managed a crew of 5 operators during plant startup and shutdown in normal and emergency procedures or emergency operations. Now, if we put in a line like this, it's communicating to the reader that, hey, this person can manage. Not only is this person qualified as established by the first few bullet points, now it's letting me know, hey, he can manage a team of 5. And that's good. Okay? Next, this line of theoretical and practical knowledge of different types of boilers. So there's really no action. And again, it's a vague result or level of experience. So my suggested improvement here could be in terms of, were there certifications? Or did you attend seminars on this? Or can you say that you're knowledgeable on this? I don't like the word theoretical knowledge because that's a weak statement. Like, hey, I theoretically know about rocket ships. It doesn't tell me anything good. Okay? So here's a point for improvement. Maybe is there a fixed number of boiler types within your company? And maybe you could say something like this: operated the 7 out of 9 boiler types, including SOVR, oil, CFBC, steam boilers. And again, I don't know if it's applicable to this person who actually wrote this resume, but what I'm going for here is the difficulty angle. That, hey, I can operate 7 out of the 9 boiler types. And I know I'm familiar with the 9 boiler types. I operated 7 of them. And again, that gives you a certain result that, hey, he's good at what he does. He knows 7 out of 9. It's specific. Okay? Now, this bullet point, train the operator's client and make actual startup and shutdown procedures. So this is already a well-structured bullet point, but I think that it could be improved vastly more. And here, I have to ask, is there anything notable when you trained them? How many were there? Did you develop any curriculums or presentations or flowcharts? And if the answer is yes, then yes, go ahead and include those details because it will make you stand out. So here's an example. Developed and delivered the training program for a team of 10 client operators for plant startup and shutdown procedures. Now, this line, it feels like it's highly underutilized, but it could be a huge opportunity to stand out among all engineers. Because imagine, all of the engineers maybe submitting this will have, many years of experience. They're going to be familiar with the plants. Maybe they're managing their own crews. But hey, did they train clients? Did they train people? Did they develop and deliver a training program? I think only a few people are capable of doing that. So me as the reader, as the person filtering this, it's gonna feel like, hey, so far this person is qualified and he can lead as well. Oh, and he can train and teach. Okay? So this is a very good line. It needs to be made more specific. Okay, next line, pre-commissioning and commissioning operation experience. Again, this is unclear. The result is vague and the level of experience is vague, just like the other highlighted bullet point, the experience plan startup. So, improvement, what was your level of involvement in these actions? If it was minimal, then just delete it. Okay? Next, ability to interpret logic diagram, single line diagram, and PNI diagram. Well, the concern here is that it feels like it's fluff, yung pampadami lang. Now, my question here is that, are these skills implied by any other bullet point above already? Like, if you're a DCS engineer or a control room engineer, isn't it a requirement to already know how to interpret logic diagrams and single line diagrams? If the answer is yes, then there's no need to put this bullet point because it's already implying that, like, hey, if I say that I've built 21 online courses, then it goes without saying that, okay, I can shoot a video, I can record myself, and I can do all of those prerequisite skills. So don't put in the prerequisite skills already. Okay? But if this ability is unique in your industry, again, I don't know. If it's unique, a better way to phrase it is in terms of an activity or a result that you have been able to achieve because of knowing this skill. Okay? Now, this last one, ability to work under pressure with less supervision. My concern here is that anybody else can put this line. Anybody else can say, oh, I work well under pressure with minimal supervision. But is there an event or result that can prove that you're able to work under pressure and minimal supervision? What made you say that you can do this? So here's an improvement. Was there an award or recognition given? Or maybe a situation, maybe an emergency plan shutdown that you were able to manage or lead the team through? Or did your direct supervisor tell you a specific line that, hey, you work well? So this line, it's an opportunity to maybe use the testimonial format in the bullet point. Okay? Now that we've improved the resume, now I'd like you to compare the feeling and the vibe that you're getting from these two submissions. So let's say we have two applicants. The first applicant is our original resume, and the second applicant is someone who, went through this training and improved their bullet points. But what I've made is that in the second line, he only has 5 years experience. Now, what feeling are you getting from that second line? What words are coming out? What words are jumping out? What is it telling you about the candidate? So let's read it one by one. Licensed DCS and control room engineer with 5 years experience. So it's less experience than the first guy. But number 2, led a team of 5 crew operators during plant startup and shutdown. So, hey, it's telling me that this person can lead. Next, operated on 7 out of 9 boiler types, including SVOR and yada, yada, yada. So, okay, tells me that he's familiar with a lot of things in the industry. Fourth bullet point, developed and delivered a training program. Wait, wow, for a team of 10 client operators. So this guy can teach, this guy can lead. Yeah, he's good. And fifth bullet point, recognized by direct supervisor as the most reliable member of the team, quote unquote, during an emergency plant shutdown procedure. So that's the testimonial format. And so in the improved version, yes, we made him have less experience, but he's also a leader. He's familiar with all of the different types of boilers. He can deliver a training program, and his boss said he's the most reliable member of the team. Who do you think will get that interview? Person number 1 at the top, wherein the only thing we know about him is that, yes, he's qualified, and let's hope he can get that interview because of it. Or this person number 2, less years of experience, but he's a leader. He can deliver training programs, and he's super reliable. So, you see what I mean here? Even if you have less years of experience, if you know how to put amazing bullet lines, you're gonna get that interview. You're gonna stand out. Okay? And if we end the entire training here, and that's all that you did, sulit na lahat, because the power of the resume really is in the bullet points. So Here's the recap of the bullet points. The way you improve yours is to go through line by line in your existing resume. Go through line by line, just like what we did here in this masterclass. We check, okay, is it in the action and results format? Is it already specific? Is this the best verb that we can use? And number 4, check, is this just a filler point? Can we remove this? So with each line in your resume, you evaluate and try to improve each one so that each major portion gets 2 to 3 great bullet points that makes the reader go, okay, all right? Now, a question that I know some people will be asking is, J3, what if I don't have any good or great bullet points? What should I do? First is, don't assume that you don't have great bullet points. Instead, I invite you to first reflect and dig deep for data. Reflect in the past. What were the compliments that you received, the achievements maybe in your past projects? You just didn't know the numbers. Maybe in your past initiatives, you just didn't know the results or didn't get to reviewing the results. And go ahead and feel free to contact even old clients or bosses and ask about these old projects. Okay, so maybe you're a consultant and what you do is you prepare reports and you give them to your clients and you don't know if the client actually implements them or not. Then this is the time that I invite you to start calling up those old clients and tell them, hey, do you remember that report that we did? What happened there? Did you use it? Oh, what happened to your sales after using it? And now you have data on, instead of just saying in your resume, okay, prepared market feasibility study for client. Instead of just that, it can be created a feasibility study that led to a client generating so and so sales per year. Now it's specific, and you did that just by digging deep for data. Okay? Now, second, what if wala pa rin? Then my message here is that the point when you realize that you're lacking great bullet points, it's a very important milestone in your career. And let me tell you the time when I realized this as well. And this was when I was in third year college, and there was an event, a leadership event, where they're selecting the top 100 students. And one of the requirements was that you submit your resume and they're gonna pick the best students to attend this leadership seminar. And the lineup of speakers were amazing. I believe that Tony Meloto of Gawad Kalinga was there. So me, as a student, I really wanted to go to that event. So I wrote down my resume and I couldn't put anything in there. It was like weeks of, what have I done? And so I hated that feeling. Absolutely hated it. So I made it a point that, okay, I'm gonna be active in my organization. I'm gonna get out there and get some achievements. I'm gonna volunteer in my community. I'm gonna go for internships as early as this coming summer so that the next time I have to submit my resume, I have amazing things to put down there. And so that's what I did in my fourth and fifth year of college. It led to me, an officer of the college's largest organizations. And when there was a time when I came in for an interview, and this was, I believe, with Kraft. So it was a multinational company, and we were all fresh graduates. And I came in on the interview, and I saw my resume. It was on top, and then I saw a bunch of other resumes on the side. And in my resume, it was the only resume that had the star at the top right corner. And I knew that, when this person read this, she was impressed. She likes me. Because I knew that, it's the only paper there that had a star. And I realized that, okay, you made good decisions in your past 2 years of college. I played less video games and Dota, and did more work in terms of serving the college community. Okay, so in your case, if you're having problems on writing great bullet points, then I invite you to make a 90-day goal to be able to add something you'll be proud to write and add in your resume. Be it better job performance, be it in your own projects, be it in your community and organization involvement, or being it getting certifications. Just go out there and add stuff that you'll be able to put in your resume. That's going to be amazing. All right? So, with that, that's the end of the bullet point section. Now we go to the second improvement, which will be on resume formats. As we dive deep into resume formats, I'd like to remind everyone that the bullet points, this is the main thing. Okay? 80% of resume improvement falls into the bullet points format. Maybe this is just 10%, and the next thing it's just 10%. So I want to highlight the level of importance of these next lessons, meaning that it's not so significant at all already. Spend more time on the bullet points than on your format. With that, let's now go to the formats. There are only 3 formats of resumes that you should be familiar with. Okay, the first one is the traditional chronological resume format. And this is where you list everything in chronological order. So at the top, you have your name and contact information. Then if you have 10 or more years of working experience, then you put in your career highlights or career summary. And then you put in your job experience per company, and then there's those bullet points, maybe your educational background, and your other information. So a vast majority of employees should use this format. When you're in doubt, you just use this format, wherein you list down your most recent at the top, and then the more in the past it is, the lower it is in the resume. Okay, so that's the traditional one. The next is the graphical format. And this one has the same categories as the traditional, your projects or work experience and so on, but you present it in a way that it's like an infographic, just like what you're seeing here in this example. So there's lots of graphics, there's design, there's circle to the right, there's a timeline for the achievements, and on the second page, and so on. But this type of format should only be used if applying to design-related jobs. Okay? If you're applying for a job that involves design or maybe user experience, or where your artistry and creativity is very important, then use a graphical format. You can use a graphical format. But if design is not relevant to the job, do not use a graphical format, because the extra graphics, it just comes across as trying to mask the lack of actual achievements expressed in words. And actually, even those applying in design-related jobs, they have 2 resumes. They have the well-designed resume, and they have the traditional text-only resume. Because the way you stand out in the resume is not with fancy paper or perfume or, these designs. It's in your bullet points. Okay? Now, again, exemptions apply to, hey, if you're an actor, then maybe you're gonna make a video audition video resume, or if you're in design again, it's applicable. But for the vast majority, for 90%, we go with the traditional format. Okay? Now, next one. Not many people know about this, but there's also a type of resume. It's called the functional format. And the difference with this one is that it's not organized by time or company record. Instead, it's organized by job function. So, for example, the major categories after the summary could be administrative experience. Next is training and development experience, followed by culinary experience. So you don't list it down that, hey, I worked for this company from 1990 all the way to 2000, and then this company from 2001 all the way to 2005. You don't list the sequence of it. Instead, the listing is in your work experience in these different fields. Now, when is this format used? This is best used by applicants who, number one, they have career gaps of several years. And if we use the traditional format, maybe you're someone who took a 3-year break or a 5-year break or a 10-year break from working, and you now want to get back into the game of working and you have to work on your resume, then it's important that you don't highlight those years, because people will be able to see that, hey, this person did nothing in the last 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, and that raises a big question mark. So instead, the format is in your experience in several areas. So if you're applying for an administrative job, then okay, you put in, here's my administrative experience. It's not related to any company, but you put in those bullet points on what you were able to achieve in those areas. Okay? Now, this functional format is also best used when you're transitioning into a new function or career path that's unrelated to your past experience. So for instance, let's say your entire career has been built on sales, sales, sales. Everything that you've done for the past 20 years is sales. But you now want to make a transition into HR. So it doesn't help if all these past 20 years you highlight in the resume that, hey, I've just been in sales. Instead, what we're now going to do is that you highlight, okay, here is my experience in HR. And you highlight the seminar. Okay, you attended these seminars. This is what you did that's HR related to sales. Here are the teams that you've led, and so on. And the sales experience, it goes down way at the bottom because it's not relevant to the job you're applying to. Okay? Now, the other way that the functional format is best used is when you're applying to jobs that have a cross-functional skill requirement. And what I mean by that is, for example, in startups or in NGOs, you're expected to do a lot of different things. You're expected to do, say, fundraising and marketing, but at the same time, you're expected to do some admin work and some maybe supply planning. So these are 3 different fields. And it's possible that your past job doesn't really highlight what you're capable in these 3 fields. And that's why we break it down into functions. So your resume format could be, okay, this is my experience in fundraising. And okay, this is my experience in admin work. And this is my experience in planning and organizing. And those are the main segments of your resume. Okay, so those are the 3 formats. Now, which format is for you? As a very quick summary, graphical only if you're applying to a design-related job, functional if the job requires multidisciplinary skills or you have experienced several years of not working or you're transitioning into a new career path. For all of the cases, for all other cases, go for traditional and chronological. All right? Now, one final thing to note when it comes to the format is that please know every resume is screened in less than 6 seconds. It's a gut instinct call. That's why I'm always doing the impression of reading and making, and that's all you get. If you have enough bullet points at the start that make the interviewer go and say, you're gonna get into the yes pile. But if in your first bullet points, it reads as, that's in the no pile. Okay? Now, what we're going for here is this following format. Your best bullet points should always be at the top. That's why we have the section on career highlights. Your other good bullet points, they will be placed in the middle. And here we place it for logic and just sense, because we want to make it more believable that when the person is reading it and he already goes, and you got their interest. And they're reading, oh, so he worked in this. Ah, so this was his background. Ah, he started in this pala. Okay, okay. And then next page, then, okay, okay. And then at the end, for other interesting data, we put a bonus for them in there that makes them go, oh, one last time, and that gets you in the yes file. Okay, so we do this because humans remember only the first thing and the last thing of they read. So we use that bias to your advantage. Okay, so when you're doing a spot check for your resume, check if the first few lines there make you, this is good. And then the rest can be, okay, okay, makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. And then the ending, it can be, okay. So how do you do that? Well, at the end of the other data portion, there is a portion where you can put in non-professional facts that you can include. And let me now share when you can use those. You only include it if it is, number one, remarkable and implies a positive trait in you. And number two, if it's related to the job. If it's both, then go ahead and put it. So here's an example. Here are good examples. Other data. Member volunteer at the Red Cross for 13 years. So, that's something that tells you that, hey, this person is a good standing member of the community. He volunteers and he's been doing it for the past 13 years. Or this one competes in international ultimate frisbee tournaments. So, this person, okay, he's competitive. So it implies positive traits. Now, here are some bad examples that please do not put in your resume. Likes photography and mountain climbing. So the reason why that's bad is because anybody can put that. There's nothing remarkable about it. It's just, I like. And, it's just like saying, I like anime. I like playing video games. And that does nothing for your application. But if it's related to the job, let's say, you're applying to an outdoor or adventure company, then it makes sense to put in there that, okay, you also like nature photography and mountain climbing. That makes sense. All right? So that is when you should put in or exclude the non-professional facts about you. And if you have these things, these personal things that are truly remarkable, maybe you're a part of a volunteer organization, or you've been awarded some awards that may or not be related to the job, then put them there. Basta the impression that you give the people is that, if it's that type of reaction, go ahead and put it in. Limit it to just 1 or 2 points. Okay? Now, next question in the formatting. Should you include references? The answer is absolutely not. This is a document that you should have separately and is only available upon request. Here are the reasons. Number one, for the privacy of your references. Because in your references, you put in there their email, the cell phone number of your, past bosses. So don't put that in. The second reason is that for the privacy of your job hunting intent. So let's say your reference is your existing boss, and your existing boss has no idea that you're actually looking for a job outside. And can you imagine passing out the resume and then someone decides to call your boss and tells them that, hey, this person is applying to me, do you know them? And, it's not going to be a good situation. So don't put in references. Third important thing, why you should exclude references is that hiring managers don't need them at the start. Normally, the way it works is that, okay, resume, and then if they like you, they're going to invite you for the interview. And before they give you that job offer, they're going to request for references and call people up if you're really to back up your claims during the interview or in the resume. Okay? So absolutely no references. Next, should you include personal info, age, gender, photo, marital status, or nationality? Any information that can be used to discriminate should be left out. It's useless. Your personal information in the resume should be the name, of course, and your address, because that's how they'll contact you. And your contact information, your email, cell phone number, and your LinkedIn profile, not your Instagram or any other social media accounts. LinkedIn only, because that's the social media for professional work, and other information that's specifically asked for in the job posting. Okay, so if in the job posting it says put in your age, gender, and photo, then by all means, please follow the job posting application. But if it doesn't say, then remove those information. All right? So next, there are many templates online. Which one should you use? It does not matter. As long as it's organized and everything is easy to read, you don't need fancy formatting, images, fonts, designs. You don't need them. All you need are your great bullet points. Okay, the bullet points, it is what matters most. Okay, so now we are on the last improvement area. And this is on the customization of your resume. And this one is really fast. And it's really helpful. It's going to get you that extra 5 to 10% boost in standing out. And it just comes with this recommendation. As much as possible, you should always customize your resume depending on the job and company you're applying to. So you can have a baseline resume. And this is where you put in all your bullet points from all of your past jobs, no matter how long. Okay, so this is a document that's just growing and growing over the years. Now, every time you make a new application, you create a new file. Every time you update your resume, you create a new file. And every time you submit your resume, well, you create a new edited resume per role or per company application. And this one has the maximum of 2 pages. So your folder will look like this. 2017, that's your resume, that's the baseline. 2018, that's the resume, that's your baseline. Now, let's just say you updated your resumes just because you wanted to. Okay? For no reason at all, you're not looking for jobs. Then 2020, you're now looking for a job. You create all of these smaller files that it says 2021 De La Cruz resume marketing. So for any marketing position that you're applying to, that's the thing that you send. And it's created from your baseline. Or if you're applying for operations, then okay, you put in that whenever you're applying for operations or for tech companies, that's the one that you sent. Okay, so you have different versions of your resumes depending on which company you're applying to. Okay, now if you've watched module number 2, the past training on networking in this Alive series, then you can send the baseline version as your generic reference as well. All right, so I hope you get the concept of this one. You just customize based on the skills that are required for the specific job you're applying to. You can reorder some bullet points. You can change up the sequences based on the job. All right, now let's get into the application question. How long should you take to write or edit your resume? The answer is 2 days, because everything you need, it's already in your mind. You can just, do some digging on what were your accomplishments these past 3 to 5 years in your job, but everything, it's in your mind. Maybe it's already in your files, where kailangan lang halongkatin yung lumang files. Oh, what were the results of this campaign? What were the results of this initiative? And so on and so forth. Everything you need is already with you. So, day 1, you write your initial bullet point drafts. Day 2, finalize. And of course, don't forget to write your name. And then, ready or not, start sending it after 48 hours. Because the longer you take, the harder your confidence will start to wane down. And you're gonna start to feel that, it's just gonna drag on and on and on. So begin sending out your resumes 48 hours after taking on the job of editing it. All right? Now, let me tell you that it's your turn. You have already learned the 4 major ways on how to write kick-ass bullet points. And I really hope that you enjoyed those things, because it's like taking your job description or old resume and turning it into a thing that just stands out. Okay? You've already learned how to optimize your format and customize it for best results. you've learned how to avoid the many common mistakes people make in writing their resumes. Now it's your turn. Let's take action on this. I'm here for you, even though this is a pre-recorded video training, in the comment section of this video. Tell me, what did you think about the bullet point changes with our engineer applicant example? Let me know. And do you need help with your own bullet points? Are there certain lines that you're not sure if it's phrased correctly, or you're not sure how to express a certain job that you're doing? Then please post it in the comments below this training and let's improve it. And if you have any other questions related to this training, then please go ahead and post them below. Okay? And as we end this training, I'd like to remind you that you are unique. You are the only person with your set of experiences and struggles and challenges and accomplishments and achievements. So I invite you to do the work and let's write those amazing bullet points and let your uniqueness shine in your resume.